Hello, everyone, and welcome to Film Fan Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Fortenberry, aka Jim Crawford, your uncle's best friend. Keep in mind while listening, I am not a professional film critic, nor do I pretend to be one. Just a normal guy doing reviews of movies. All right, we got a great show coming up for you guys. We have Movie of the Week, Independent Review, Top 3, and Cinema Trivia. Be warned, the podcast you're about to hear has spoilers. All right, joining me today is director, writer, producer, and all-around great dude, John Woodruff. John, it's great to have you here, man.
It's great to be back, man. What's it been? A few years now, huh?
It's been a few years. Yeah, I had a big hiatus there, but we're doing it. It's rebooted. It's happening.
We're here.
Yeah, man. So I'm glad you agreed to be back on the show. Really, just want to know what you've been up to. We're gonna do a review of Animal Among Us later on in the show, which I'm super excited for. Yeah, it's gonna.
That'll be interesting. The like 5 year later review. Perceptions change.
Yeah, man. I think it. Yeah, because I watched it way back when, and I watched it again, and I had a totally different take on it this time around. Saw a lot of foreshadowing I didn't see the first time, so and it's cool because you made the movie, so it's like, I got the guy here that made it to talk about it. It's awesome. So yeah, man. Boy, what you been got going on?
It's been an interesting few years since Animal came out. Fall 2019 is when it was released, and we promptly entered the pandemic in 2020, which ground the industry to a halt. Good thing was it gave me a lot of time to write, so I developed a couple projects, ended up optioning one of my projects, Killed a Girl, to one of the top 10 highest grossing producers of all time. Shot a director's test and everything for it, and then the Hollywood strike, the longest strike in the history of Hollywood, shut us down. And by the time we got through it, there'd been some changes in strategic partnerships and financing, so it got shelved for the time being. Fortunately, because of all of that downtime, I had nothing else really to do but write and develop, so started working on a project called Night Takes All. It's going fantastic. Actually just did a virtual table read of it this past week with a bunch of good people out of LA, and really testing the script and testing the response and getting ready to jump into financing on that. And options coming up on the expiration date on the options coming up on Kill the Girl, so looking at trying to get that one back in production too. So just trying to get the next one made for these last 5 years.
Okay, well, can you give us maybe a little synopsis on each one? Just people listening might want to know, man.
Yeah, so Kill the Girl is about a girl who wakes up on the slab in the local morgue, and when she does, she embarks on a journey of revenge to find those who drained her and left her for dead. It's the little hook on that one. And Night Takes All is about a guy who is bedridden with severe cerebral palsy, and when his longtime friend and caretaker dies unexpectedly on the floor in front of him, he finds himself haunted by a strange visitor every night that whispers to him of its intent to destroy all that he knows and loves. So he has to kind of figure out how to get himself out of that situation.
Yeah. So I read the script on the second one. I read halfway through the other one. I was in some training at the time, but don't hold that against me. I still want to finish it. Has there been any script changes at all since I've read it or since you sent it to me?
Night Takes All I just sent to you a couple weeks ago, so it's still pretty much the same. I've managed to actually drop another couple pages out of it because...
Really?
Yeah, when I did the table read, it's fascinating to see, what lines you don't need. Where you're like, what the performance tells me everything I need to know. Like, I don't actually need them to say that line. Like, this is a little overwritten. This is a little heavy-handed. So I was able to drop a couple pages out of it. And I slipped in kind of another interesting little visual device that runs throughout. So happy about that. And then with Kill the Girl, it's been some time since you read it. And I am constantly kind of refining it and working on it. So I'm sure that there's been some changes, but nothing too dramatic, I don't think.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I guess I need to finish Kill the Girl, and I'll do that actually. And
let me know which ending you read, because that's the biggest thing that changes is the endings keep getting changed out. So I don't know what draft you have and what ending you have. It's like a choose your own adventure.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, would you be interested in maybe doing both endings and having like an alternate ending?
If I could get the money, absolutely,
Yeah.
that's always the challenge. I
So
mean,
what
you
it
can
boils
shoot,
down to, yeah.
yeah, shoot to the end of time. I'll shoot every variation of the film possible if we have enough money. So that's really what it would come down to.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, man. So me and John have been talking about over the last 6 years. He's kind of been my mentor on a lot of film stuff since we had our first interaction, and recently we started talking about a lot of this AI news, and I kind of wanted to bring that up and kind of get your opinion on it because I feel like it's important, especially in the independent world, for us to talk about this kind of stuff and kind of get in front of it. So I
Yes.
just kind of, I know you have a very strong opinion on it. Is there anything you would like to say about it? If
Ye-
you've got an audience here.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously, like super interesting point of conversation at this point, and has everybody in the industry talking and at every level, from a writing perspective, clear to sales and distribution. So the developments in AI do affect filmmaking. Um, every step of the way, every step of the process. And it has a lot of people, kind of running scared, feeling like, this is the end of Hollywood as we know it. And inevitably, it is going to create changes, it's going to create dramatic changes.
Right.
As technology does. I mean, we've been seeing dramatic changes in the business of filmmaking now for the last 20, 25 years. Like everything was very similar until it went digital. And once it went digital, like you just started to drop crew members and personnel like crazy because you were able to do more and more and more with digital technology at every step along the way, including communication. So this is kind of like a similar beat in that story, just maybe a more dramatic one. But I'm really not that worried about it. The thing that I find myself kind of realizing is the truth that like AI can only produce content. Like
Right.
it cannot produce art. It cannot truly produce film. Because it's incapable of producing art. It lacks the inherent qualities that define art. It doesn't have emotion. It doesn't have the human experience, the unique perspective, true collaboration and intent that's affected by those elements that make something a work of art. So, I do think that like we'll be able to hold fast to the importance, the sanctity of art and film, cinema, writing, everything because of that. I think the real danger comes in just a bit of like the lack of education from an audience as far as not being able to differentiate between content and art and being supplemented with content. And I think that that's the danger because there are a lot of
Yeah.
people out there that just don't have the knowledge to see the difference and really understand it. And if they like what they're watching and it takes their mind off things, like that could appease them. And I think that that's kind of the biggest threat. So I do think conversations like this are really important.
Yeah, I do think that from like a marketing perspective, that's going to be something that, if you say, I guess in this fast-paced CGI AI world, like Oppenheimer, for example, right? They didn't use CGI from what I understand, the way they marketed it, anyways. They made it seem like it was all just like practical effects, the way they shot everything. And if that's the case, I mean, I hope that's true. If filmmakers can make that known to people, people are very fascinated by that because it's like, how did they create this? And that is art. So I think in some respects, that's going to be a good thing for filmmakers. Potentially,
Absolutely.
I hope.
No, I think you're right. And I mean, look, like, what's the value of good art? Like, what's the value of good film? Like, it's the honesty, it's your ability to authentically capture snapshots of the human experience, the human condition that we all relate to. So, there are a lot of filmmakers out there that kind of try to lean out of the CGI and lean out of like the post VFX already just to really like lean into the authentic honest
Yeah.
human experience and the art, the trade, the craft, the skill that each of these people bring to it, because that is where the magic really can happen. And so I think that that's another saving grace too. If anything, we might see a little bit more of like a divergence in story types, to where there are going to be people that lean more into natural storytelling and trying to capture authentic reality, and people that are going to go more into digital creation. And for
Yeah.
me, like personally, once with this big AI push, it's challenged me more than ever to it's made me want to lean that much more into doing everything practically, like doing everything naturally, and capturing as much realism as I can, regardless of how spectacular the story is, because I do
Yeah.
think that's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, we kind of talked about that with the movie that you're working on right now. I was kind of asking those questions, like, how do you plan on doing this? And I'm kind of curious on some of the stuff from Animal Among Us. We'll get into that here in a second. We're gonna move on. I'm super excited for you, John, and I'm super excited for your future in cinema. We got to get going. It's time for
Movie of the Week.
Movie of the Week. It's a segment where my guest and I watch a movie during the week, try to keep an open mind, and just talk about it. And the movie of the week is The Exorcist. Yeah. All right, so a quick summary. Chris McNeil and her daughter Reagan relocate to Washington, D.C. for a film project. When Reagan exhibits unusual behavior, medical professionals are unable to identify the cause. Chris consults the others and ultimately obtains permission for an exorcism with Father Merrin's help. This movie was released in 1973. It was rated R for strong language and disturbing images. It's directed by William Friedkin. I think that's how you say it. He also was known for To Live and Die in L.A., The French Connection, and Cruising. It was written by William Peter Blatty. I'm probably butchering that, sorry. Stars Ellen Burstyn, Max von Sydow, and Linda Blair. It got 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb. Has 18 award wins and 21 nominations with 2 Oscar wins, one for Best Writing and one for Best Sound. All right, man. I've got some general questions, and I got some, but I really want to get your thoughts on this. I didn't take crazy good notes, but I feel like I took some pretty decent ones, from my perspective anyway.
I'm excited to see what you thought of it. I was shocked that this was your first viewing of The Exorcist.
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of the remakes and, the spin-offs, and it's just, ever since this movie, it's been super overplayed. So it's like, yeah, I've never had the drive to want to watch the original. But maybe that should have given me the drive. I think a lot of times with movies like these, you imagine them being extremely grainy because it's dark, and it's just that it's harder to watch those kind of movies. So for me, I went into it expecting that, and I didn't get that. Right out the jump, man, I was actually really impressed by how clear it was and clean it was. A lot of moving shots. I was expecting everything to be pretty still. It kind of blew me away. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. So yeah, I mean, overall, my first thoughts on it. Yeah, it was actually a really good, a good film.
Yeah,
So,
it was good enough to inspire all those other films that you watched
right.
when you should have been watching that one.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. I think the biggest surprise though for me was the vulgarity. I wasn't expecting that at all. Like, I mean, that's what in my mind is like modern. I wasn't expecting that for 1973. So when it was, I don't want to go into it because we got a pretty PG show here, but that like stabbing herself scene with the
Yeah.
cross was pretty brutal, and I wasn't expecting that at all. And the things the demon was saying that took over.
Yeah, and you're right,
Uh,
especially for that time period.
yeah,
But to tie it back into the AI conversation, like the late 60s and through the 70s were a time in cinema where people were very intent on capturing the authentic experience and grounding it in reality as much as possible. And I think that that's what made that shock value so effective, because like it almost feels like you're watching a drama. And like you said, you don't expect the opening shot it's not something dark and eerie and spooky. It's a sunrise over northern Iraq. And
Yeah.
then you move into this archaeological dig.
Yeah.
And the movie unfolds like that. And I think one of the brilliant things about it is that you can never predict what you're going to see next. Within a scene, shot to shot, but also from scene to scene. And it keeps you a little bit off balance. It keeps your interest, but it keeps you guessing. And the honesty of how the story plays out through each of those unexpected shots and scenarios really sets to your point, like some of those really vulgar, obscene, intense scenes off because you have completely suspended disbelief and you're in it by that point,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man, as far as like creative shots and things like that, like when I was watching it, actually, as I was taking notes, I felt like there was a lot of unnecessary shots. Like there was insert shots of the staircase, a lot, and I didn't get why. It didn't make sense. I was like, why is this? I wrote it down. I was like, why are they doing these shots? This doesn't make sense. Should have known it was foreshadowing. Like, duh. But, it just didn't seem. It felt like really out of place to me. Things like that,
Interesting.
Yeah, but, and you get to the ending and you're like, oh, okay. It's all taking place on this stairwell. A lot of the events that unfold are on that stairwell. So it was as the investigator was walking up the stairs. And they kept doing these weird shots of the stairs as he was walking up. And I was like, man, this is kind of odd. It just felt misplaced, But I think that was them saying something's going to happen here or something already happened here kind of thing.
Yeah, I think one of the fascinating things about it is like a lot of, I don't think that there's anything in the film that was done without intention. I think that everything has meaning. And I think that even when something is unexpected like that, or it feels like they're dwelling on it a little bit, it makes you think, like it draws your attention to it. And in a way, like it does elicit an emotional response, even if it is just like, kind of frustration at why you're spending so much time on these stairs and what these stairs have to do with anything. But it ends up then paying off so big in the end. And
right. You're like, oh, yeah. The big
and I think that's one of the things that's beautiful and brilliant about it is I feel like it's a film that's rooted so deeply in subtext and metaphor that it's unbelievable, especially without like disturbing the narrative. But like most of the conversations are not about like an exorcism or supernatural forces or the spiritual realm. Like they talk about everything but that, and yet every conversation they have is about that. And I think it's genius. Like the examination of this this priest who is a pious man and of the cloth, and he's humble, and his mother's having health issues, and he can't get her good help. He can't care for her the way that he would like. And then you have this kind of vanity-driven movie star who has all the resources in the world to care for her daughter, and she has, at one point she screams, there's 80 doctors and none of you can give me an answer, and she can get all of the treatment in the world for her daughter, but they can't crack the code. And when they can't crack the code through like the bounds of human knowledge, what do they turn to? They turn to the church. They turn to God. They turn to the unknown. And I just think that there's so much in the film like that that's so fascinating. I mean, the law is literally powerless. Like the detective has no true power or knowledge like in the story. His hands are tied. Like there is no justice. And I think that some of those elements are really fascinating. And then to your point, like you layer some interesting visuals on top of it, like the studies of stairs. Like, okay, what does that mean? Like, what does that represent? Like, why are we looking at these stairs? Why doesn't somebody just fall out a window, And it's really, really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Another question. As far as creative shots or transitions, did you see anything super cool in this movie that was just like over the top artsy? I can't. Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to say, I think what you were going to say is like, you couldn't really think of any. And I'm right there with you. Like, it's fascinating. I think that like good direction stays out of the way of the story. If you notice it, like you're kind of putting yourself ahead of the story. And there are some amazing shots in it. One of the shots that I love because it's so nuanced, you barely notice it, is when the doctors come to check on Reagan when she's really flipping out. And Sarah, the caretaker girl or the assistant, she goes to the front door and you're on the steps and you're looking down, but you don't realize it. She opens the doors, the doctors come in. We kind of track with them up the stairs, almost like we're in a steady cam shot, realize we're on the stairs, pan as they walk past the stairs and into the room. And it's just such a well-designed shot. And I think the film is so full of those well-designed shots that you almost don't notice them. And I think that coupled with how unpredictable the shots are and the imagery and what they're showing you, that, for me, even the scene ordering really makes the whole thing fall in that category, where if you take any one part of it, you're like, this isn't an art film. They're just telling the story. But when you look at it as a collective, you're like, man, they really did something there,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the one thing that I try my best, man. I try my best to keep, look into the metaphors and everything else. And at the end of the day, this is why I say at the beginning of this podcast, I am not a professional film critic, man. I try my best to capture this stuff. But then there's the side of me that's I have no idea what they're talking about. My co-host does a really good job of picking up on stuff. And I think he looks it up and asks other people's opinions, but that's just me. Yeah, he's cheating, man. He's got to be. He's too good at it. No, but the scene at the beginning, whenever he finds the artifact, right, and he's looking at the statue, in my head, I'm trying to picture, is the artifact the same thing as the statue? Little things like that. It doesn't really explain that in the movie per se. It's something, and he's scared of it, and he's researched whatever it is. And I think that a general audience can get that and accept that. But what was it?
Yeah.
I want to know a little bit more. I don't know. I feel like maybe they do explain it, and I just did a bad job of paying attention.
I don't think so. And it's a really interesting thing that you hit on. One of the things that I've been reading a lot about lately is how I think they're calling it literalism, where everything is becoming so literal, in film and in storytelling and in art, that there's no room for ambiguity. There's no room for interpretation. And I run into that with some of the script development, right? People want a solid answer for every single aspect of the script. And it was interesting because when I was doing Kill the Girl with this producer, when we would turn in a revised draft, it was literally defending your thesis. I mean, he was literally well, why does she do this? Well, what's his intention? Well, where did they come from? Well, how long did that take? I mean, he just questions everything. But this particular producer wanted everything buttoned up so tightly that it didn't really leave room for any question or interpretation. Personally, I think confusion is bad, mystery is good. I think in life there are so many things that we still, in spite of all of our self-perceived wisdom and technology, we still don't understand. And I think that is an important aspect of storytelling. So for me, what you're describing in The Exorcist, you're 1,000% right. Do we understand how this priest gets exposed to this evil in Iraq, brings it back to DC, but then it jumps to this house of this movie star who happens to be there, and it possesses this little girl. Do we understand the mechanics of how that all happened? No, absolutely not. There's enough connective tissue there that we understand it, so we get it and we can feel it. But in a way, to me, it's I appreciate that ambiguity. I think that's one of the things that makes it scary. I think that that's one of the things that makes it mysterious and one of the things that makes it work. We can kind of connect the dots. Like you said, the little piece that he pulls out, the statue, and it goes from there. The Ouija board, it's the rats in the attic, the house, the movie set, the priest, they all go. But it's how does it really work? We don't know, and we shouldn't know because it is beyond our comprehension. And I personally, I love that stuff, and I think that we need more of it in art and film to exercise our critical thinking skills and to have conversations like this, because that's what it's about, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's some of the greatest movies, man. Or some of my favorite movies have that mystery at the end of the movie, leave it open ended. It's like, yeah, you can assume something, but everybody argues about it at the end. This
Yeah.
isn't something that I've heard argued, really. I mean, I know it's a very well known movie, and a lot of parodies and things have been made from it, and a lot of spin-offs. But I haven't heard just in general conversation talking about those types of things in movies where somebody brings that up. But now that I know, I'm going to bring it up to people. So
Yeah, and one of the
I want to see what people think.
to your point, one of the fascinating things about it is in pop culture, like the horror aspect is universally recognized, universally talked about. But these other elements, and it's the other elements not to take away from the horror aspect because
Yeah.
the effects and everything are phenomenal and it's horrifying and it's amazing. But these other elements are what allow that to succeed to the degree that it does. And to me, that is like really where I find it so genius and so intriguing, you know? So yeah,
Yeah.
fun movie, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good one, man. What'd you think about the ending? Just right off the jump, what did you think about the ending?
You know what?
And
I made some notes on it too, and I literally wrote like it's perfect. Like I really think that is a perfect ending. It's like the pious man ends up sacrificing himself for the perceivably innocent youth who is kind of under the care of the rich and entitled movie star. And
yeah.
the rich entitled movie star who treats people kind of not so fantastic and is kind of egocentric and self-centered, she gets everything she wants. Everything works out for her. It's a perfect cynical metaphor for the way our world works. Like
Yeah.
back then in 1973 and still today, it's like a perfect representation of the human condition. Like the humble guy throws himself on the rocks to do what's right, and the wealthy, the rich, the famous, they benefit. And this lady, she doesn't even then like join the church, give a huge charitable donation to it. No, she just literally hands this buddy like a dead dude's medallion at the end and is like, thanks for saving my daughter. Sorry your friend died, and drives away. And it's so messed up. And you're like, but that's how the world is. There is no justice, and that's why the detective was powerless through the whole thing. And I think that is the genius of it.
Yeah, it definitely caught me by surprise. I will say that. I was not expecting him to do what he did. And I know we say there's spoilers. I don't really want to ruin that for people because I don't want to ruin what he does. But I wasn't expecting it, man. It caught me by surprise. And I was like, oh no, man, come
Yeah,
on. Yeah,
yeah.
so I love that in a movie when there's a little twist at the end, especially at the end, man. You get that good twist. It just,
I think, and it's fascinating because I guess for me, like I'm just old enough that like I was surprised, you know, when you're like, I actually haven't seen it, and I'm like, what? Like who hasn't seen The Exorcist? But we're at a period in time where like there are huge blank spaces for people depending on like when they were born and what they were exposed to. So to your
yeah,
point, like, and I hope conversations like this do like inspire people to be like, man, I actually never saw the original. I need to check it out. And because it is a special film, I mean, again, like, look, it inspired, I don't even know how many Exorcist movies there are as far as the topic.
a
It
ton.
was,
There's a ton.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it was literally the first. Like, there's a reason that there are so many of them. And there's also a reason that none of them, and I'm not saying this to be disrespectful or mean. I mean, making a movie's hard, but there's a reason that none of them have even come close to accomplishing what the original did. It really
yeah.
is a special film.
Yeah, I agree, man. Is there anything you would have changed if it, like just I know you like this one, but is there anything at all you would change about this movie?
You know, like in all honesty, and again, you sent me some of the questions and stuff so I could think about them while I was rewatching it and everything, and I was watching it, and I think one of the things that makes film such an amazing art form is that thing that you can't define that allows a movie to become what it becomes. Like there's a last minute casting change, or somebody all of a sudden isn't available, or they have less time to shoot this scene and they actually like had to shoot at a lower budget. Like all of those different like unforeseen things are what makes it so magical. And there is a limited amount of control, and there should be in creativity, because that is where, again, like the magic happens. Like it's creative problem solving. And so for me, when I look at it, like I know this is a cop out, but no, like I would not change anything about the original Exorcist. I wouldn't change a single frame of it, because I think that it's like some sort of magic voodoo, like mix in a cauldron, like witch's brew that just came out pretty much pitch perfect. And I think if you changed one thing, the whole thing would like fall apart.
I think that with the different types of guests I've had on, right? The difference is you're a movie maker, and I think that's why you have such a strong opinion on it. And people that watch movies just we don't know what's going into doing all of it, and the behind the scenes. We like to think we do, but we've never done it. We've never walked in a movie maker's shoes. It's easy to pick out something. You find that one thing that drives you nuts, and you're like, I wish they'd have done this. Yeah, so I find I like knowing. That's just what I think. It could be something.
No, but that's a fascinating thing, because since I've started making films, it has changed. It has entirely changed the way I perceive films, because I firmly believe that sometimes when you're looking at something and you're like, man, I would have changed that. I bet the filmmaker's sitting there thinking the same thing, and they're just like, I will give anything to have had an extra hour on that day, or if this person wouldn't have been sick that day, or if my Steadicam rig would have worked. I mean, dude, when I shot the director's test for Kill the Girl, I can't tell you how many things went wrong that day. It was a freaking nightmare. And I was just like at one point walking around in the woods by myself in the middle of the night with the crew there, because I was like, guys, I need a minute. And it was a small crew. I mean, it was like 8 of us. And I was just walking through the woods just thinking like, why do I even do this to myself? Like, this is terrible. Like, this isn't fun. I mean, the craft services girl dropped out like that day. I had 2 Steadicams on the shoot. Neither of them worked. It started raining. I mean, it was like everything that could happen happened, and you're just walking through the woods and you're just like, yeah, why? Like, why did I do this? And people watch the test and are like, dude, that's really good. I like it. I'm like, thanks.
Yeah, I could.
I would have changed 500 things, and 90% of my plans didn't work, but I guess there's something to look at. So it's like, it is funny that variance in the perspective, and I think that's one of the things that make it so fun. And I also think that that's what I've learned. That's how like the big guys in the industry, the pros, like they don't let all of the nitpicking get to them, because they understand it's like, we're literally dealing with witch's brew here. We don't know what we're going to
get. Just from listening to your perspective and your stories about making the animal, that has changed my perspective quite a bit. So. Man, it's harder for me to look at a movie and think, especially budget. That's probably the biggest thing. Just thinking about budget, I'm like, I wonder how much they had to make this movie. When I see something, I'm like, that's probably not a good movie. Well, it's low budget. I get it now, and then I'll give it a chance. So that's actually why we're doing this next section. But I'll get to that. That would have been a great segue. But we'll get to that. We got to rate this movie first on a scale of 1 to 10. What do you rate this movie?
I'm gonna give it a 9, because I never give anything a 10.
Right.
Just because like there are always those little things, but for me, like, it's a solid 9. Like,
Okay, I can get behind that. So, and I was telling Colby this the other day, man. After I talk to somebody about the movie, I always want to bump up my scale, because everybody always goes higher than me. But when I write it down, like as soon as I watch it, I write down whatever I'm going to rate it, and I put a 7 out of 10 on this one.
Okay.
And I'm thinking I should go higher, but I'm going to stick with it because that's what I wrote down, John. Okay.
You know what? And we'll get into this later when we talk about Animal, but that's the other magic about like film and books. When you go back and watch stuff at different points in life and read stuff at different points in life, your perspective does change. And the movie has grown on me tremendously over the years. I mean, I've been watching it since I was in high school, and I've just fallen more deeply and deeply in love with it. So Keep me posted. And I'm betting when we do this in the next 5 years, you're going to be like, Exorcist, like 10.7.
It's up there. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. It's time to move on. It's time for
The Independent Review.
The Independent Review is a segment where we find an independent film, discuss it, and give it a fair rating based on it being an indie. Okay? So this movie we're discussing, Animal Among Us. And wouldn't you know it, we have the guy that made the movie right here. So, John, I know that you've said the tagline for this like a million times. Can you give the tagline, a little summary of this movie? If you can't, I'll do it. I got it wrote down, but
okay, so let's see how well I remember it. It's weird you go from talking about it all the time to just it's a distant memory. But 15 years ago, two girls were murdered at Merrymaker Campground. The camp was condemned. Author Roland Baumgartner wrote a best-selling speculative book about what happened and is invited back for the grand reopening of the camp, and something horrifying still lurks in that woods.
That's almost word for word, man. So good job. You kept it.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So this one, I have a quick little side story on this. So I was telling a friend of mine who just recently moved to Washington, D.C. area about the podcast. He didn't even know I did this. And I was like, man, you got to give it a listen. You know, I'm trying to get the word out that I'm doing this again. And I was telling him to watch, to listen to episode 4, the It Follows and More episode with you. And I was telling him, yeah, Wednesday I got John's coming on the show. Blah, blah, blah. We started talking about Animal Among Us. And he was like, I think I've seen that movie. I was like, really? And he looked it up, and come to find out, his mom, I don't know, that he may have been lying to me, but he says his mom knows the cinematographer in the movie.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, what kind of crazy world do I live in, man?
It's possible. I mean, Anthony Gutierrez shoots up all over the place.
He said the name Anthony, so I think that's...
Dude, that guy, like, just, he knows everybody. He's everywhere. He never stops working. So if there's anything that wouldn't surprise me, it would be that somebody knows Anthony Gutierrez.
Yeah. I just thought, what a small world, man. Yeah, because he's got nothing to do with film or anything.
That is crazy.
So, yeah, I thought it was kind of cool. But
that's super cool.
Yeah. So, all right, getting back to it. So, this movie has 18 award wins, is written by Jonathan Murphy, stars Larissa how do you say her last name?
I always said Olenek.
Olenek, okay. Christian Oliver and Aaron Daniels, and we can't forget Don Fry. It was shot in Ohio and L.A., and yeah, I mean, let's get on it, man. Let's talk about it, because I'm curious to know some information about this movie that you might not have discussed before.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Did you rewatch it recently? Have you seen it recently?
So recently, I spent like 3 months in Albania. And while I was in Albania, I also went to Serbia, and I've been spending a lot of time in Sweden because I married a Swedish girl. She's not yet allowed back into the United States, so I've been spending a lot of time overseas to spend time with her. Okay. And the shocking thing about Animal Among Us is it has effectively been pirated all over the entire world, and you can find so many links with the entire film in every country. When you Google it, you're like, I am blown away. I'm flattered and horrified at the amount of people that have watched this film. Like, you find links in Albania where it's like, it's been up for 3 weeks and it has 270,000 views. And you're like, what? You go to Sweden, I mean, the Philippines, like wherever you're at, it's there. So kudos to my original sales agent for just absolutely like dropping the ball on everything with the film and allowing it to be pirated so effectively. But thank you to everybody that watches the film. You know, I'm kind of astounded by the visibility that it continues to get several years later, even if it is through, illegal channels.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I would have. Yeah, that's interesting. I would never expect that, man. That's nuts.
It's
Huh.
bizarre.
Okay. Well, the reason I was asking because I just wanted to see if you had a fresh take on it or anything like that. But
So
kind of curious.
yeah, I did. So I kind of watched a little bit of it here and there to see like if it had
Okay.
been dubbed. Some of them have been dubbed, some of them haven't. The quality, So I've checked in with it while I was overseas.
Okay. Okay. So first question I have is where did you pull your inspiration from when making this film? I know that's like a super generic question, but I'm kind of curious. So
So
a lot of different elements of like I guess you would call them Easter eggs, but it felt like I don't know if it was in the writing, um, but there was a few things I noticed, and I'll say what I'm thinking, and you can tell me if I'm off or not
yeah, there
after
were
you.
tons
Yeah.
of stuff in the writer. In the writing, Jonathan Murphy put a ton of Easter eggs in there. It was one of the
Okay.
things that we both thought would be so fun about it because it is kind of an ode to, campy, fun 80s horror
Yeah.
flicks.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of Easter eggs in there. There are a lot of direct references in there. And for me, then of course, like as a director, that's where I went as far as my inspirations, going back to kind of like the old Friday the 13th movies and going back to the Sleepaway Camp movies and just anything and everything from that time period to try to capture a little bit of that sentiment, a little bit of that nostalgia in the way that we handled it from an acting perspective, a shooting perspective, and just also like atmospherically and tonally as well.
Okay. Yeah. The okay. Well, all right. Let me. So there's a lot of Stephen King references. I think there's what. There's probably more than four, but there's like four, right?
I would have no idea anymore, but probably at least, yeah. And we
Okay.
did a lot of that because of Roland being an author, and
Right.
since these chicks are like basically extorting him for money, he's like, "Yo, he literally at one point says, I'm not Stephen King. I've written one
Right.
book. And so we thought that was a little ironic and fun to drop some of that in.
Yeah, it felt like the idea of them like writing a book. Hey, write another horror book. Misery, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah, they didn't. Nobody said this is that plot or whatever, but that's where my mind went. Another one was the just a shot of the hand you see when he's like pulling down the. Was that ET? Was that supposed to be like an ET thing, or was
You
that
know,
something else?
I I am not ashamed to admit that like I'm a huge Spielberg fan,
Good.
and
Me neither, man.
it's like who isn't like just his storytelling is off the charts, and so I think films like E.T., films like Silver Bullet, you see that a lot like back in the '80s where they didn't maybe have like the money or the budget to have the best costume. We didn't either, the money or the budget, the money, the time, like anything to have the best costume. So like they did what they could, and we were in the same situation. So
Yeah.
definitely pulled from stuff like Silver Bullet, E.T. Definitely like looked at a lot of Spielberg stuff just for the way that he blocks and frames shots, and has characters like interacting with each other on the screen, and kind of trying to like bounce between some of like those subjective and objective perspectives in the story. But first film, 15 days to shoot the stuff in Ohio, 3 days to shoot the stuff in LA, extremely limited cast, crew, budget. So
Y'all
I'm not
shot
going to
that in
sit there.
15 days?
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and
Whoa.
say that it was accomplished with any huge level of success, but that was in my mind a lot. Like,
But 15 days, that just feels like for an entire feature film, man, that feels like an accomplishment in itself.
yeah,
I mean, like, I wouldn't be able to make a movie in 15 days.
no, it was rough, dude. It turned literally, I'm not joking, like it turned my beard gray. I got a twitch under my eye for like 3 months from the stress. And the crazy thing about it is like it was a union film. It was SAG. So like we had to adhere to, 8-hour days with breaks. And what I
Yeah.
did is I staggered schedules so that we could actually shoot 12-hour days. But that would be 12-hour from call to wrap. Like, I never worked anybody over 12 hours except like the closest inner circle of people that had to keep things running like in the downtime. But dude, it was suicidal. Like, it was. I mean, yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, but okay, but I'm just saying, man, like it feels like a huge accomplishment to me. I don't know how long it takes to make movies, but like 15 days just feels like such a short amount of time to be able to put out what you guys did. So kudos to y'all for that, man. And
Thanks.
I feel like people should, when they hear about this kind of stuff, they need to know, like when they're watching these movies, like this is the effort that went into this, you know? Like,
Yeah,
and,
I think it's like a couple of things that I've learned from Animal. One of the things is like just how close we were running to the edge of absolute disaster because
Mhm.
like our schedule was so tight. And again, I did stack things like I knew, okay, like if it rains, like we have to be able to bump inside. If we're not able to like access a location, we can bump over here. Like I
Okay.
had stuff stacked, like one thing on top of another, which made for a lot of preparation and organization, but I think it was one of the safeguards in allowing us to do it in that amount of time and to the level of effectiveness that we were able to. But now when I look back on it, I'm like, man, that was a gutsy move. We had such a small margin for error, and
Yeah.
then the other thing that like I kind of learned with it was just the like how grueling it can be and how tired you get and how tired people get and that you do need to account for that like throughout like the process, because it's just it wears you down. It's like there is an arc throughout production. And I guess the last thing that I really learned was to find the compliment in the insult, like because a lot of people were comparing it to a lot of bigger films, and a lot of people were like, "Man, this movie freaking sucks, dude! Like, this isn't like it," because like it came out like the same year or something, and I'm like, "Yeah, no, you're right, it's not." They spent as much in
Yeah.
4 hours on it as we did on the entire film. But
Yeah.
I'm happy to be mentioned in the same breath. It's like
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
we did this
Yeah.
thing from conception to completion for $80,000. So
Yeah.
it was a mind twist though. It was a real mind twist.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I've got a lot of notes on it that and stuff that I didn't see before, but I'll get into that. But what was your first impression of this film? Sitting and watching it on the big screen and like seeing everybody's reactions. Because y'all did a premiere, right? I know you invited me to that whenever y'all had the premiere. How
Yeah.
did that go?
So we did a test screening of it at the Horror Hound horror convention, like in about a year before we finished it. Like we hadn't locked picture and we wanted to see how people received it, and it was received really well, and that was a blast to see it start to work. And then we were able to refine it from there, and we were able to like I think make it a little bit more effective from there. When we went on our festival run, it was great. Like nobody knew anything about the film, so people were really into it. They were really excited. They were really having a lot of fun with it, and it was an interesting thing to see. And it was nice to see people enjoying it to the degree that they did. For me, it's like it's weird. It's like you look at it one time and you're kind of like, I mean, I'm proud of it. Like, don't get me wrong, and everybody did do a great job, especially like considering where we were each at, like in our careers and what we had to work with. But just for me personally, I mean, there'd be times that I look at it and I'm just kind of like, ugh, like cringing over certain things because maybe it didn't turn out the way I intended or wanted it to, or
Right.
didn't work and I had to cut around it or something. And then there were other times that I turn it on and I'm like, man, this is pretty freaking good. Like, wow, like we actually did something here. So it's a strange experience because your perception literally does change depending on your mood, where you're at, like how you're, remembering things, feeling about things. So that's the best I can give you on that. When I look back on it, I'm
Yeah.
like that's a pretty good accomplishment for the amount of time and money we had and that first time up to bat. But yeah, there's a lot that I wish that I could have. I wish I would have known then what I know now.
Hey, I mean, that's how you learn, man, you know? So that's why I'm like, all right, I can't wait to see the next one you make, you know? Uh, Okay, what was your favorite scene to film? Not what was your favorite scene? Like I want to know the behind the scenes stories, like all the jokes and anything that's going on, you know?
So, okay, this probably isn't what people want to hear. For
Okay.
me, like it was a tough experience, man. I mean, I was stretched too thin, and like when I look back on it and I do try to think about like if I actually had fun, like I mean honestly, the most fun that I had was when we went back after principal photography and we did pickups and inserts.
Okay.
And we did it with Anthony. And no, we didn't. We did it with a different cinematographer. Anthony was booked, and the other guy matched Anthony's shots. Sorry, I misspoke. It's been so long. But it was a skeleton crew. And we had stuff like the hand, we had stuff like the mask, we had, the truck and the costumes, and we were shooting people's feet, and we were shooting like the scene
Uh,
when Roland's on the road trip. I needed some cutaways in there, so we literally used one of my buddies and put him in Roland's costume, sat him like in the car, and we were like running past the car with like sticks to create like shadows to make it look like it was moving as we were like shooting the bag on the seat, shooting his hands on the steering wheel, all that stuff that we didn't have time to get during principal photography. And that actually for me was the most fun part of the
huh.
shoot because it was manageable. I mean, we didn't have a ton of cast, we didn't have a ton of crew, we didn't have a super tight schedule. We literally had like we need to get these 18 shots this weekend, and for me that was the most fun part of the shoot for that reason.
Yeah, it just felt you literally just all right. How do I be super creative to get this done? That's the fun process about literally any creative outlet, man.
Yeah, we had time to
Yeah,
breathe. We had
yeah,
time to breathe and kind of enjoy it. So
yeah.
for me, that was the most fun part of the shoot was the pickups and the inserts.
So I'm remembering that scene. I think so when it's zooming in on his mask.
Yep,
Is that what you're talking about? That whole setup? Okay.
yep, yep.
Yeah. Okay. And that brings me to another question. Was the zoom intentional to be like, I know that's like a very 1970s thing, man. For whatever reason, in all these horror films in the 70s, there'll be like some ominous person standing off in a corner and they zoom in on it. And
Yeah,
I've never understood why that didn't really continue, but ever since I noticed that about the 70s films, I see it like in modern films now. I'm like, what? Okay, well, was that like homage to that time period
a
or
little bit. Yeah, and
what?
I actually didn't. We didn't get to shoot nearly as much on zoom lenses as I would have liked. If I remember right, I think we were actually. I honestly can't remember if that's a zoom or if it's a push.
Yeah.
And it might honestly even be a post push. Like I might have put that like in
Oh,
post, but definitely like influenced by, as you can probably tell just even from this conversation, by like those 60s and 70s films. And like you, I love zooms, and I've I had zooms on the director's test with Kill the Girl. Again, we had a lot of trouble, so we didn't get to use them as much as we would like, but
hmm.
definitely want to start to incorporate more zooms into my shots just because like they are so effective and they do create such a unique feel in the visual storytelling. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's ominous and it pulls your attention, and that's like, well, at least to me, that's what happens. And that seems extremely intentional. Like, there's no other reason they would do it.
for sure.
And if they do, I mean, well, somebody tell me why, because
Yeah,
I don't
for
know.
sure. No, but
uh,
yeah, very
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, man. I guess the last question I got on this, if you could go back and change anything, like obviously, you've had plenty of time to go back and look at it. If you could go back and change anything with, um, yeah, time machine, you could go back, fix something that you didn't like about it. What would it be? Just one thing. Just one thing.
I mean, it's kind of a hard question to answer, because kind of when we were talking about like that witch's brew, it's
Mm-hmm.
like everything ended up going down the way that it did. Um, for whatever the circumstance like dictated or necessitated. So it's like I can't really say like one thing. I think for me personally, I would try to enjoy it more. Like I would try to I would try to schedule it in a way, I would try to set it up in a way that it left a little bit more time to breathe. I think that I would be able to have more, I would be able now to more accurately gauge what it was going to take and how to set it up in a way that I could enjoy it more. And I think that that's the biggest thing that I would change, is just like it was a really tough experience, and it's hard to get a film up and running, like it really is, and I do wish that I had positioned it to where I could have like just breathed a little bit and sunk into the moment a little bit and enjoyed it a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm sure that would have had a slight change on how the outcome of what the final picture would have looked like, you know. Um, I really do. That'd be interesting to see. But I
Definitely.
like what we got. So I do have some questions for you though. So and they're pretty obvious, I think. The suckers. That was something the first time I watched it. The characters that the main guy slept with, right? They
Yep.
all have suckers
Yep.
at the beginning of the movie. When I first saw it, just did not get it at all, man. It didn't even like. I was like, why do they have like? I remember thinking that. Why do they have suckers? And going back to like when we were talking about the Exorcist, like this weird insert shot. It was trying to pull your attention towards something, right? I feel like it was the same thing. And the second time watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, because I had already seen the ending. I knew what like I get it now.
Yeah.
So is that what that was for? It was like
That's
not at all,
absolutely,
or it wasn't? Okay,
absolutely, absolutely what that is. Murphy has
okay,
put that in, and we talked about it a lot. And I think that we actually ended up. I can't remember one of the girls. We on the shoot, we decided we were like, wait, hold on, we're already there with this, so like we should give her a sucker too. And I can't
okay,
remember if it was. I think that I know that it was scripted that Kara pulled a sucker out in the lecture hall. And I'm pretty sure that it was scripted that Poppy had a sucker at the camp. I think that we decided to have Aaron Daniels have a sucker as well when she comes home and they have the kid and they're talking about, so did you get any writing done? And you're 1,000% right. Like at the end of the day, it's like each one of those women get the best of Roland and they kind of come out on top, and the character really is kind of a sucker. I mean, it's like he does get kind of manipulated and he does get kind of pulled into things that he shouldn't. And it was a tricky balance to keep his character likable in spite of the decisions that he was making. And so we
yeah.
felt like the sucker was like a very direct kind of like metaphor for it. Probably a little heavy handed, but you
No,
got it.
no. Oh, I mean, and I'm not the guy that normally catches that kind of stuff. So I thank my wife for that one. She picked up on it like immediately. It was like, oh, okay,
Thank her. Yes, I'm glad
yeah.
you got it. But yeah, that's it.
Gotcha. Okay. I would say for me, the one thing that I wish I was there when he was writing this, and I could have said, dude, you got to bring the Bigfoot hunter back. You got to bring him back at the end of the movie. I feel like he was such an underrated character in this movie, man. Like he was funny, and maybe that's just too overplayed, where they always bring the funny guy back. But I love that at the end of movies. I would have loved to seen him show up with the cops and get the
That,
two girls at the end. That
that
would
would
have
have
made
been
my
funny.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would have been funny. I mean, he is a great character, and that was Jonathan Murphy, the guy that wrote the script, who played the reporter.
really.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's a great actor, and I just thought had so much fun with that role. Like, just thought that it was so fun and so funny. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that would have been a great idea to bring him back a third time. I mean, you don't expect it when he pops up,
Right.
again.
Yeah.
Or if you brought him back a third time, it would have been incredible. So,
Well, that's cool. I didn't know that that's who that was. I was looking for him on IMDb, trying to find the actors or whatever. But people got facial hair and stuff, longer
yeah,
hair or whatever. It's hard to pick them out. So, but yeah, that's cool to know that. So anybody that watched this movie, you didn't know that's the writer. That's
yeah,
cool.
that's the writer. That's Murphy.
That's cool. Okay. All right, man. Let's rate this thing on a scale of 1 to 5. What would you rate this movie?
I would give it a 2.5. I think we did a sufficient job given what we had, what we knew, and the time constraints. I'd give everybody that I worked with a 5.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we did all right.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 3.5, and that's actually in line with, I can't remember which website this was on, but I think it's Prime. So if anybody didn't know, this movie is on Amazon Prime. You can go watch it. Please go watch it, and then comment what you think about this movie on the podcast. That would be awesome. But yeah, on Prime, it's rated a 3.5 out of 5. So not bad, man.
No, not
That's
bad.
what I'm giving it to. So, all right.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, we're going to move on. It's time for
The Top 3.
This is a piece where we choose the top 3 of some category and order them accordingly, with number 1 being the best. The category for this episode is horror deaths. Starting with number 3. John, what is your number 3 top 3 horror deaths?
Okay, so you know me, I'm a mainstream guy, so these aren't super avant-garde or off the beaten path. I think that they're
Okay.
references that a lot of people will recognize, but I based the judgment on how memorable it was and also kind of like the impact it had on cinema overall and myself. So my number
Okay.
3 is Drew Barrymore's death in Scream. Because it did rewrite the script on horror films in the 90s. And she was pushed as the lead from a marketing perspective. She was on all the posters, she was in the trailers, and no one saw it coming. No one expected it, and it completely like rewrote the script, flipped the script. So I'm going with Drew Barrymore as number 3
Okay.
in
Yeah,
Scream.
that's a good one, man. And actually on episode 4, we talked about this, and I had not seen any of the Scream movies at that point.
My goodness.
Immediately after that, I went and watched them. So, just so you know, I've seen them all. It's not it didn't take me that long. We we watched the whole franchise, man. But so now I'm there. I'm top tier, on that. I'm in that level now.
Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club.
I didn't get it at first. It took me a minute, and I ended up loving them. So Scream, yeah, they're good, man. And that's a good top 3. My number 3 is Bone Tomahawk. Have you ever seen that movie?
I have seen Bone Tomahawk, but it's been a minute.
Yeah. So the ending, and I talked about this last episode. It's funny this one keeps coming back up, but there is a very unsettling death in that movie where somebody gets split in half with a bone tomahawk. And it was just such a wow factor that it's very memorable for me. And I don't even know if that movie's considered a horror movie.
I see it in a lot of horror conversations. I
Yeah,
think it gets there.
yeah. So yeah, that's my number 3. Maybe I
That's a
should have
good
had that
one.
one as an honorable mention, but
No,
anyways,
that's a good one. That's a good one.
yeah,
I hadn't thought about it for a long time, but I do vividly remember it. And I mean, it is very visceral and unexpected and impactful.
yeah, yeah. What's your number 2?
So my number 2 is Franklin in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He was the guy in the wheelchair, and I picked that as my number 2 kill because it created a huge moral dilemma for the audience. Like we knew
Mm,
we should feel bad for this character who was in the wheelchair, but he
right.
was so abrasive and so grating that he was hard to like. So there was a part of you that was really glad to see him go, but there was a part of you that knew you should feel bad. So for me, it created this huge moral conflict in regard to his death, and that I just think is unforgettable and impossible to replicate. So Franklin in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, don't they do that in one of the Friday the 13th too? I
Yeah,
feel like they
somebody,
do.
part
Yeah,
3, part 3. Yeah,
yeah,
brutal,
yeah.
brutal.
That's a good one. Yeah. My second is actually from my other list as well. And when you guys get done listening to this one, if you haven't listened to episode 13, you need to go listen to that one. Hereditary, the piano wire scene.
Hmm.
Um, which, now that I'm thinking about it, it's not a death because she stays alive. You know, her head comes off, but she's still moving around. Maybe that shouldn't count.
I don't know. Like I guess it's one of those moments that raises a question of like, what are the definitions of a death scene in horror?
That's a great question. Yeah, it just popped in my head. I'm like, well, no, maybe it maybe this doesn't belong in this list. Huh. I might have to revise that. We'll revisit this here in a couple years. We'll do this one again because there'll be new horror movies out, lots more deaths and stuff.
Definitely by then. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But no, that's a super memorable one as well. And I'm
What's
surprised you picked that one over the telephone pole.
yeah, man, you're gonna have to listen to episode 13.
I'm
That's,
going to have to.
we talk about Hereditary, man. It's that's the review we do, so it's yeah, it's a good one. We go pretty in depth on that one.
Yeah, I'll have to
So
give that a listen.
yeah, what's your number one?
So my number one, some people could probably say it's predictable. I'm sorry. I think it's one of the most influential kills in the history of horror is Kane in the original Alien. It's hard for me to imagine a world without chest bursters. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to imagine going to the theater in, 1979, 1980, sitting down watching this Alien film, thinking this dude's okay, and all of a sudden he starts floundering around on a table and this thing bursts out of his chest. It's like it's such a widely and universally known reference now. It pops up in cartoons. There's
Mm-hmm.
parodies of it. How many movies has it spawned? And it just before that we'd never seen anything like it. So I think it's unexpected, it's memorable, and it changed the course of deaths in a horror film.
Yeah, that's fair, man. That's fair. And I had heard, I don't know if it's true, that the rest of the crew didn't really know that that was going to happen, at least for the initial pop outs part of the scene. So
Yeah,
they didn't, like, their reaction is a little bit more real. Is
yeah.
that, I don't know if it's true, but be cool if it was.
Yeah, I've read something like that too. I mean, I think that you have to let people in on the gag to enough of a degree that you can
Yeah.
shoot it and keep people on task. But I also think that in that I can see where they might be like, look, okay, this is his death scene. We're not going to tell you how it's going to go down. And then in between the setups and stuff, people are like, okay, this is getting weird. Okay, so pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, my number one is just I don't really base it off of like like what how influential it is or anything. I would say that for me, it's just for me. Like this is what I think the craziest way to die was in a horror film. Final Destination, when the guy gets his, it's not the first one, it's like the fourth, I think, where he gets his gut sucked out of him at the bottom of a pool.
Oh my
I don't know
God.
if you've ever seen that, man. That was horrific. It's a
That
terrible way
sounds
to go.
That sounds pretty horrific. I'm not a huge one to get into like the Saw movies and the Final Destination movies, but and probably for that reason because they
Yeah,
are based on inventive ways to like kill people.
yeah,
So I can see where that would be very effective.
yeah, yeah. That one, and my wife had mentioned the scene where they die by like a tanning bed or something, right? And I'm like, yeah, I mean that's memorable, I guess, but I don't know. Getting your gut sucked out by a pool, like a vacuum, just sounds like it sucks.
Yeah, that
No
would be
pun
a way to
intended.
go. That'd be a way to go, man, for sure.
What's what's your honorable mention?
My honorable mention is also water based, also mainstream, probably predictable, but I've got to give it to Quint in Jaws.
That's what mine was. It's the
Yes.
same one. Yeah.
I mean, dude, as a kid, it was traumatic, and it took me years to understand. I'm like, but why did Quint have to die? But why? Like, I literally grieved him until I finally was old enough to be like, yeah, that's the only way that you could write that. Like, there's
Yeah.
not another option. So, yeah.
Yeah, man, that actually, yeah, I watched that when I was like in the second grade at Galveston. We were on the beach in the hotel at the beach, and I was watching this thinking like, dude, I'm not getting in the water tomorrow. Like,
Amazing.
but I remember that scene freaked me out. Yeah, that's I don't know. It was hard to watch like for like any time I watched it till I was like, I don't know, like 14 or something. And then
Yeah.
finally was like, all right, the shark looks fake. Yeah, what was I thinking?
I
But
mean,
oh,
they set it up so well. It's like everybody's
Yeah.
afraid of what might be in the water, what might get them there. We have some experiences with that throughout the film. And then we see somebody that we feel like we really know and care for slowly being devoured by a shark. And it's
Yeah.
just like, it's a lot, especially like you said, when you're in second grade, which, that's how we grew up. So, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one. I'm glad you picked that, man. That's cool.
It's hilarious.
Well, we got a lot of cool movies that we went over. It's time for my favorite segment. It's time to play
Cinema Trivia.
Okay, the rules are simple. Me and my guests ask each other movie trivia questions. 3 questions each, best out of 3. With the off chance that there is a tie, we will go into overtime. So I'll start this off. John, are you ready for your first question?
I am ready.
All right, just gonna have a little horror theme here. Let's see. I don't know how you did yours, but mine are pretty easy. Number 1, what's Randy's first rule in the Scream franchise?
This is a good one, and I haven't watched it in a long time, but I've watched it a lot. You never say I'll be right back. That's number 3. Wow, I am so blanking on this.
Well, I'm not going to give you the hint, and I do want to say this real quick because I always do this every episode. You are allowed 1 hint, even into overtime, just 1. So,
Man, and I mean, I've watched this film so much, I can't believe I'm blanking on this. It's so interesting. Definitely like, and never say, I'll be right back. Don't have sex. Don't drink. Don't have sex. Don't drink. That's like, and don't do drugs. Don't have sex. Don't drink. Don't do drugs. That's one rule in and of itself.
well, I'll go ahead and give it to you then, because that is the answer. Don't have sex is the first thing he says, so that's the answer.
Okay.
So, good job. You got the first one right.
Does he lump the drugs and the drinking in with the sex, or is it just no sex?
I think it's no sex only, but that's the first thing he says, and that's the first thing you said, so I'm going to give it to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
The fact that you got that far, I mean, like, good job. I wouldn't have known that, so.
Man.
All right, here we go. Let's see what you got. What's your number 1, man?
Okay, so mine are all Exorcist theme because you just watched it, okay?
No. Okay.
You're going to get this. Like, the number 1 question is, where is The Exorcist set? Where does it take place?
Washington, D.C.
Perfect.
Oh, I'm so glad I got to write that summary. That helped me a lot.
Zero hesitation. Zero hesitation.
All right, cool. Okay, I'm just gonna keep messing with you then. Okay, so this one's. I'll give you a hint on this one, freebie. Okay, this is a trick question.
Okay.
Maybe I shouldn't have told you that, but it'll make it too easy. In Friday the 13th, how many people does Jason kill?
None.
That's the correct answer.
Yeah. No, none.
It was the mom.
And that's a little bit of a screen-based question too.
Yeah.
Nicely played.
Huh. All right.
Nicely.
Number 2.
Okay, my number 2. Okay. What is the name of the actor who played Reagan in The Exorcist?
Not even like. I don't even think a hint would help me on this one, so I'm just gonna say I don't know and leave it at that. I even read all the names off, but
it's a name you hear commonly in the horror community, and I've actually never heard the name affiliated with another credit.
Yeah, man, I don't know. You're gonna say it and be like, "Oh yeah, I read that earlier." But
yeah, you're gonna. This is a high pressure situation. People don't understand. When you're there and the camera's on, like your mind can go blank. It's Linda Blair. Linda Blair played Reagan.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, crucify me on that one. I know I said it earlier in the show, so whatever. Okay, number three. So you've gotten two correct so far. I've gotten one correct.
I'm going to say 1.5. You helped me a lot on that second one.
Ah, well, I'll ask for the hint on the next one so I can actually make it into overtime. In Jeepers Creepers, how many years pass between the creepers' feeding cycle?
Well, I know for a fact that it's either 21, 23, or 27. And I don't know why I am sitting here thinking, like, how many is it? Is it 21 years? Is it 23 years? Or is it 27 years? I'm going with 27 years.
That's the wrong answer. It's 23. It's 23.
God.
I wouldn't have known that, man. I've seen them, but it's not as memorable, I guess, to be like, oh yeah, 23. Yeah.
It is, but I'm one of those people that always gets numbers mixed up no matter what. So then I'm like, okay, it's an odd 20s and it's 21, 23, 27. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Don't feel bad. How much power does it take to get back to the future? In the Back to the Future question, I got the number wrong. I think I said 6.21 gigawatts or something.
that
Right?
sounds right.
It's 1.20. Anyway, I'm just saying, I got it wrong, so don't feel bad. It happens.
Man. Okay. All right. Here's your final question.
Okay, and this could get us into overtime. If I get this wrong, you
I'm
win,
gonna I'm
baby.
gonna give you I want to give you a hint preemptively. This is a name that you have said in this podcast.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
all right.
Who wrote the Exorcist book? You said the name. You said the name earlier in the podcast. And it's the same guy that wrote the screenplay.
I know, I know. I have no idea, dude. Oh, John, next time, dude, just you gotta ask. You could ask some like random questions about different movies.
I,
I am flunking on this so bad.
I figured you just studied it. I was like,
Dude,
how could I like slow ball pitch it out there? Like
oh, I don't know. Who was it, man?
William Peter Blatty.
Thank you.
And look, all I can
Good
say to the
job.
audience is like, you think it's easy when you're sitting there in your car or at home listening to this, but there's been technical issues, there's been storms, like we were rushing to get here. So you get kind of cooked by this point in the podcast. There's a lot
Oh
going
yeah.
on.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Well, we'll go ahead and just for fun, John, you won. But just for fun, let's do the overtime question. So, all right. In which state does the Night of the Living Dead take place? I thought this was a great overtime question.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, good job, man.
Yeah.
Man,
Where
how'd you
it's
know that? Man?
just, I think I always found it fascinating that that's where that film shot because I'm from Ohio. And so just always thought it was great that George Romero, from Pennsylvania, shot it in Pennsylvania and always felt really close to home.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, dang, man. I thought
Usually I feel like I can be pretty good with these. I feel like I kind of dropped the ball today. I'm mad that I had trouble with the screen question, and I'm mad I missed the Jeepers Creepers question too.
But you still won. You still
Uh,
won, so you're good. All right. What was the last one? What was the last one for me?
your honorary question is what is the clown's name in Terrifier?
Oh, oh. I've actually only seen this one time, and it was like in passing because they made three of those movies, right?
Now, yeah, it's pretty out there now.
It's like Bojo the Clown or something.
Bojo?
Is it Bojo? Bogo? Something like that, right?
No, no, you got
Not
to
even close.
go up to the first letter of the alphabet for
I
the
had a.
for the first name starts with an A.
Dude, I got no idea.
Oh.
I have no idea. Who is it?
Art the Clown.
Art?
Art the Clown. Yeah.
Okay. What am I thinking of? Bozo. I was thinking Bozo.
I don't know where you got Bojo. He sounds scary, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't mess with Bojo.
He sounds scary.
Oh man, I've watched this trivia so bad this time. It's always fun though. I hope everybody listening and watching this really enjoys this portion. Okay, speaking of that, this portion of Cinema Trivia is for all the listeners, viewers, spectators, film fanatics, and movie buffs. I'm going to play a short clip from a film, and you have to figure out what it is. This will be part of the podcast from now until the show ends, so I'm going to play this clip, listen closely, and see if you know what movie it's from.
There's someone at the door. No one move a muscle.
Someone's out there.
Impossible. No one can survive the forest after sunset. This is a trick. Mina, I know you're lying about where you found that pike. I need you to be honest with me. Did you break the rules?
Okay, if you think you know what it is, leave a comment stating the title. Also, if you want to shout out, take a screenshot of the cover art for the movie and post it to Instagram with the hashtag FilmFanPodcast. And in the caption, put the title of the movie and which episode of Film Fan you're listening to. If you do this, I will try my best to give you a shout out on the next episode. Okay, John, thank you for doing this, man. Thank you for bearing with me through most of this.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Is there anything you want to end with?
No, I just appreciate you having me on. Super interesting to catch up about a film years after you've made it. And it's important to have conversations like this. I think in that conversation about AI and film and the value of art and human collaboration, I mean, it's like a cornerstone of the human experience, like storytelling and art, and it's completely invaluable to critical thinking and social dynamics. So there is a lot of value in this stuff, and thanks for being one of the people that'll go out there and have the conversation and create opportunities like this.
Yeah, man, absolutely. All right, everybody, check us out on Film Fan Podcast on Instagram. If you like the show and you want to help us out, give us a high rating on whatever your preferred streaming platform may be. If you're listening on Spotify podcast, swipe up and shoot us some comments. Let us know what movie we should review next. All right, that's it, guys. We'll see you next time on Film Fan.